It's too cold outside. She said it in that way she always did, as if the words weren't just about the weather, but about everything else she carried with her. I stood there in the doorway, one hand still on the knob, the other holding the mug I'd meant to hand her. She was wrapped in a dark wool coat, hair slightly damp from the misty air, cheeks flushed. She didn't shiver, not exactly. She had too much pride for that. But I saw the stiffness in her shoulders, the way her fingers curled tight around themselves. "Then let me warm you up." The words left me before I could stop them. They sounded bold, maybe too bold for someone like me. I was 23, still learning how to measure myself in her presence. She was mid-40s, elegant, sharp, the kind of woman who could undo me just by raising an eyebrow. And yet, for all her poise, there was something about her standing there in the quiet hallway, half drenched in streetlight, that made me want to take away every trace of cold she felt. Her eyes lifted to mine, calm but unreadable. They lingered a second longer than polite. I swear the air between us shifted. Inside, my apartment was warm, a single lamp spilling gold across the small living room. I stepped aside, and after the faintest hesitation, she brushed past me. The scent of her perfume, soft, understated, with something lingering like cedar, stayed in my lungs long after she crossed the threshold. She slipped off her coat, folding it carefully over the arm of the couch. Underneath, she wore a dark sweater that clung to her just enough to remind me she wasn't untouchable. She noticed me watching. I knew because her lips pressed together in that way they did when she wanted to hide a smile. "You shouldn't leave your door unlocked," she said. A deflection, but her voice was softer than usual. "And you shouldn't be walking home this late," I countered. My tone came out steadier than I felt. Her hand brushed against mine when I handed her the mug. Just an accident, her fingers grazing the back of my knuckles, but it lit through me like an electric current. Neither of us pulled away immediately. She cleared her throat first, curling her hand around the cup, steam rising against her face. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was charged, the kind that made every sound exaggerated. The faint hum of the radiator, the tick of the clock, even the quiet sip she took as if it were louder than it should be. I sat opposite her, though every part of me wanted to sit closer. My knee bounced once before I caught myself. She noticed that too. Her gaze drifted down, then back up again, deliberate, like she was deciding whether to say something she'd regret. "You're staring," she murmured finally, setting the cup down on the table between us. I swallowed. I didn't mean to. Her lips curved, just slightly. "I don't believe you." For a moment, neither of us moved. The heat of the radiator, the closeness of the room, the unspoken words hanging heavier than the steam between us. It all seemed to pull her toward me, or me toward her. I couldn't tell which. Her hand reached, as if to steady the cup again, but instead brushed over mine once more, this time slower. My chest tightened. And then, just as I leaned forward, the sharp sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway outside, stopping right outside my door. We froze. Her eyes darted to mine, wide with something between caution and desire. The door handle turned. The handle stilled, and after a long pause, the footsteps faded down the hall. Neither of us spoke until the silence settled back into the room like dust. She exhaled, steady but low, brushing her hair behind her ear as though nothing had happened. "Thin walls," she muttered. I laughed softly, more from nerves than amusement. Guess we're not the only ones awake. Her eyes flicked to me, and I saw the faintest trace of relief. Or maybe it was regret. She leaned back on the couch, stretching one arm along the cushion. Her sweater slid just enough to reveal the smooth line of her collarbone, a detail I tried not to linger on, and failed. She noticed, of course. She always noticed. "You're young," she said suddenly, as if it explained something. Not that young. Her smile was tired. Young enough. It wasn't the first time she'd reminded me. She'd been married once, years ago, though I only knew that from passing comments. The way she spoke about him wasn't bitter, but there was a quiet finality, like she had folded that chapter closed and tucked it away where no one could reopen it. Since then, it was just her, living alone, filling her evenings with books and wine and long walks after dusk. And me, the neighbor who always seemed to find excuses to linger near her door. I shifted forward, elbows on my knees. "Does it bother you?" Her head tilted, eyes narrowing. "That you're here, or that you're you?" I almost laughed, but the question wasn't a joke. "Both." She didn't answer right away. Her gaze wandered. The lamp, the window, the faint condensation fogging the glass. Then she sighed. People talk. They always do. The words stung, though I knew she meant them more as a shield than a weapon. The age gap wasn't just numbers. It was judgment, whispers, things unspoken in stairwells. Still, the way she said it carried less conviction than I expected, as if part of her wanted to believe otherwise. I stood, restless, moving to the window. The cold glass pressed against my fingertips. Let them talk, I said, softer than I meant to. She rose too, stepping closer until I felt her warmth at my side. Not touching, not yet, but near enough that the air between us thickened. Her shoulder brushed mine, barely, but deliberately. You don't understand, she whispered. Her breath grazed my cheek, warm against the cool draft sneaking through the window frame. I turned then, too quickly, and found her already looking at me. The distance between us was measured in inches, in heartbeats. My hand hovered near her arm, uncertain whether to bridge it. Her lips parted, as if she might speak, but instead, she reached out and smoothed the fabric of my sleeve, a small, unnecessary gesture. Her hand lingered there, soft and steady, longer than it should have. We didn't move, didn't speak. The radiator hummed behind us, the city muffled beyond the glass. The only thing I knew with certainty was that neither of us wanted to pull away. Her hand was still on my sleeve when the sharp buzz of her phone split the silence. She flinched. I stepped back instinctively, the warmth between us cut by the cold, metallic vibration. She fished it from her pocket, thumb hovering, eyes narrowing at the screen. A name flashed, one I didn't recognize. She didn't answer. She just stared at it until it stopped, leaving the room quieter than before. Everything okay? I asked carefully. Fine, she said too quickly, slipping the phone away. It's nothing. But her shoulders were tense, her voice carrying the weight of something unsaid. I didn't press. I couldn't. We stood by the window, the city lights spilling dim gold across her face. She looked softer in that glow, almost vulnerable. I wanted to tell her that, but the words stayed trapped in my throat. Instead, I whispered, "You don't have to pretend with me." Her eyes met mine, sharp at first, then lingering. Too long. Silence stretched. I could hear the uneven rhythm of our breaths, the faint creak of the floor as we leaned, just slightly, toward each other. The space between us narrowed. I caught the faint warmth of her breath, the curve of her lips tilting upward in something almost like surrender. My hand lifted, trembling, brushing the air close to her cheek, but never quite landing. Then, 3 sharp knocks on my door. We jerked apart. Her eyes widened, a flash of panic breaking through her usual composure. She mouthed something, "Don't," as if even speaking would give us away. The knocks came again, louder this time. "Hey, you in there?" It was a friend of mine from down the hall, voice casual, too casual. I froze, torn between answering and staying silent. She pressed her hand to my arm, firm, pleading. The touch burned through the fabric of my shirt. I called out finally, "Yeah, give me a minute." Footsteps shuffled, then faded. The quiet returned, heavier now. She let her hand fall, but only after too long. Neither of us spoke. Her lips parted as if to explain, but nothing came out. I saw the conflict in her eyes, desire tangled with fear, a silent battle neither of us could name. "You should go," I said, though my chest tightened at the words. Her brow furrowed, almost hurt, but she nodded. She stepped toward the door, then stopped, fingers grazing the frame. Turning back, she closed the distance between us in 2 steps. Close enough that I felt the edge of her sweater brush against me. Close enough that her eyes fell briefly to my mouth before darting away again. Her voice was low, almost a confession. "This is dangerous." I didn't move back. Couldn't. I know. For a moment, neither of us breathed. The tension coiled tight, ready to snap. She hesitated. Then, instead of a kiss, pressed her palm against my chest, right over my heart. Not pulling away, not giving in. Just holding me there, as if memorizing the beat. We stayed like that, closer than ever, resisting, failing, resisting again. I thought she would leave after that. She should have, but she didn't. Her hand was still pressed to my chest, steady and warm, when I realized she wasn't moving away. Her gaze lifted slowly, almost reluctantly, until our eyes met. "You can't keep looking at me like that," she whispered. "Like what?" My voice was low, rougher than I intended. Like I'm. She stopped herself, shaking her head. Her hand slipped, but before it fell, I caught it. My fingers closed around hers, tighter than I should have, unwilling to let the moment dissolve. Her breath hitched. This isn't fair. To who? I asked. The question hung between us like smoke. She didn't answer. Instead, her eyes softened in a way I'd never seen, as if she wanted to confess something but couldn't give herself permission. The silence pressed in. I lifted my other hand, hesitated, then brushed a strand of damp hair from her face. My fingertips grazed her cheek, lingering longer than necessary. Her skin was cool from the night air, but under my touch, warmth stirred. She closed her eyes. Just for a second. When she opened them again, something in her broke. Do you know what people would say if they saw me here? With you? Yes, I said, stepping closer, my forehead nearly brushing hers. And I don't care. Her lips parted, shaky. But I do. The honesty in her voice cut deeper than any protest could. She wasn't pushing me away, not really. She was trembling under the weight of wanting and fearing in equal measure. You think I don't notice? My words came rushed now, unguarded. The way you linger at my door. The way you hold on just a little too long when you hand something back. I see it. I feel it. Her eyes widened, shocked, exposed. You shouldn't say that, she breathed. But it's true. For the first time, she didn't deny it. She didn't move. Instead, she leaned, just barely, enough that her shoulder pressed into me, her body tipping toward mine like gravity had made the choice for her. I bent down, lips inches from her ear. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll stop. Her chest rose, fell. Her voice came broken, trembling. I can't. The world seemed to still around us. My hand slid to her waist, not pulling, just resting there, feeling the heat of her through the knit of her sweater. Her breath fanned across my neck, fast and shallow. I tilted my head, our mouths so close that a single breath could have bridged the distance. Her fingers gripped my shirt, clutching as if to steady herself. We hovered there, on the brink, the weight of everything pressing us closer, closer, and then a knock at the door. Sharp, insistent. Her eyes flew open, wide with fear, desire, everything she couldn't say. Don't, she mouthed. But the sound came again, louder. And I knew. Whatever happened next, nothing between us would be the same. The knock came again, harder this time. My chest tightened, her hand still fisted in my shirt. I forced myself to step back, to put distance between us before opening the door. It wasn't my friend this time. It was her sister. She stood there in the hallway, arms crossed, eyes flicking from me to the woman behind me. A slow, knowing silence stretched before she spoke. Funny place to be this late, her sister said. The woman stiffened. I was just helping him with something. Her sister's tone was casual, but the glance she gave me was anything but. Sharp. Suspicious. Too sharp. The woman brushed past me quickly, pulling on her coat. I was leaving anyway. Her voice was calm, controlled, but I caught the way her fingers trembled as she adjusted her sleeve. She wouldn't look at me. Her sister smirked. Good night, then. And just like that, the moment shattered. After the door closed, after the echo of their footsteps disappeared down the hall, I stood there, hand still on the knob, heart still hammering. She came back the next evening. Not with an excuse this time. Not pretending. She slipped inside quietly, her eyes darting everywhere but mine. You told her, I said before I could stop myself. Her head snapped up. What? She knew. She looked at us like she knew. Her breath caught, chest rising quickly. She stepped back, hitting the wall, palms flattening against it, as if she needed something solid to hold her up. I didn't say anything, she whispered. But maybe she trailed off, shaking her head. You wanted to be caught? My voice was sharper than I meant. Her eyes flared. Don't twist this. But the silence after said everything. She hadn't meant to, maybe, but some part of her had wanted it out in the open. The secret wasn't safe anymore. I closed the gap between us, slow, deliberate. She pressed back harder against the wall, but she didn't move away. My hand lifted, hovered inches from her cheek. Why does this scare you more than it scares me? I asked softly. Because I should know better. Her voice broke on the word should. My fingers grazed her jaw, the faintest touch. She shivered under it, her hands curling into fists at her sides. Her body betrayed her, leaning in even as her words tried to pull back. This is wrong, she whispered, but her breath mingled with mine, warm and unsteady. Then tell me to stop. She closed her eyes. Her lips parted, not with the words I expected, but with silence. Heavy, charged, undeniable. When she opened them again, her eyes were shining with something between fear and surrender. And instead of pulling away, she reached up and gripped my wrist, holding me there. A decision made without words. Her hand on my wrist anchored me, a silent command not to leave, not to let the moment collapse. We stood there, bodies close, breath shallow, the hush of the room pressing down on us. The lamp cast a warm halo, making the shadows at the edges feel darker, heavier. "You don't know what this will do to me," she whispered. I leaned closer, my forehead almost brushing hers. "Then let me carry some of it." Her lips parted, her breath quick and uneven. I could see every small tremor in her shoulders, every flicker of hesitation across her face. She was fighting herself as much as me. "I can't," she started, voice breaking. But her fingers slid from my wrist to my hand, lacing between my fingers as if her body had already chosen. I stepped in, closing the last inch, the scent of her perfume wrapping around me like a tide. My chest brushed hers, her head tilted ever so slightly, betraying the desire she wouldn't name. "Say it," I breathed. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then back up. Her lips trembled. "I want to." The words unraveled her, stripped away the last of her defenses. She sagged into me, her forehead pressing against my cheek, her body warm and solid against mine. I felt her exhale, shaky, surrendering, and it nearly undid me. I cupped her face, thumb grazing the corner of her mouth. She didn't pull back. Instead, she leaned into my touch, closing her eyes as though finally allowing herself to stop running. "This is going to ruin us," she murmured. "Or save us," I said. Her laugh was soft, broken, barely there. And then, silence. Only the thrum of our hearts. Loud enough, I swore, she could hear mine through my chest. Her hand rose, trembling, tracing the line of my jaw. That simple touch carried years of unspoken ache, of nights spent pretending not to notice, of every time she turned away when what she wanted was to stay. Our lips hovered, a breath apart, every nerve lit with anticipation. The world outside, neighbors, family, judgment, all of it blurred into nothing. And when she finally leaned in, when her mouth brushed mine in the faintest, trembling kiss, it wasn't polished or perfect. It was raw, messy, human. I held her like she might vanish, my hand pressed to her back, her fingers gripping my shirt like she needed proof I was real. The kiss deepened slowly, hesitantly, both of us tasting the risk, the fear, the desire that had been burning between us for weeks. When she finally pulled back, her breath shuddered against my lips. Her eyes met mine, wide, glassy, and unguarded. "Now you know," she whispered. I touched my forehead to hers, grounding us both. "So do you?" For the first time, there was no pretense, no hiding. Just truth, laid bare in the quiet. We finally understood each other, fully, dangerously, undeniably. For a long time, we didn't move. Her forehead rested against mine, our breaths mingling. The warmth of her body pressed close like a promise she couldn't take back. When she finally stepped back, I expected regret. I braced for it. The sharp words, the retreat, the wall sliding back into place. But it didn't come. Instead, she let out a shaky laugh, the kind that sounded like relief wrapped in disbelief. "What are we doing?" I smiled, softer than I felt. "Something we can't undo." Her eyes flickered, searching my face as though testing for cracks, for hesitation. Finding none, she relaxed just a little, her shoulders lowering. She sighed, and when she did, she looked years younger, as though letting herself be seen had lightened her somehow. "I've been alone for so long," she admitted, her voice hushed. "It was easier to pretend I didn't want this. Easier to keep it safe." I reached for her hand, threading my fingers through hers. She didn't resist. If anything, she gripped tighter, as if she'd been waiting for this kind of touch longer than she cared to admit. "You don't have to be alone anymore," I said. Her thumb brushed over the back of my hand. Slow, tender. "You make it sound simple." "Maybe it is." She gave me a look, half doubt, half affection. Then she leaned against me, her head finding its place against my shoulder. The weight of her there, the steady rise and fall of her breath, felt more intimate than any kiss. We sank onto the couch together, the lamp still casting its quiet glow. I pulled the blanket from the backrest and draped it over her shoulders, but she shifted, tucking herself closer until it covered us both. Her body molded against mine, warm and steady, her hand still clinging to mine under the fabric. I shouldn't care what people think, she murmured. You don't have to. She tilted her head up then, and I kissed her forehead, slow, deliberate, sealing the moment. Her eyes fluttered closed, her lips curving into the smallest, most genuine smile I'd ever seen on her. I don't want to ruin this, she whispered. You won't, I promised. We'll figure it out. Together. And for once, she didn't argue. We sat there in the hush of the night, wrapped in the same blanket, hands intertwined, neither of us needing to speak. The storm of hesitation, the fear of judgment, the endless restraint, all of it softened into something simple, something real. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished, but it was ours. And that was enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?